The war on masculinity. And I started it off like this. The rules completely changed. Every cultural norm that built strong men got shredded. And most guys are now barely waking up to the scam. But everybody can feel this. It's a nagging sense that what made your grandfather a legend is now labeled toxic. And it's working against you. That playing by the old rules gets you divorced, gets you broke, and alone, while soy boy simps get patted on the head. You're not actually paranoid for understanding what's happening in the world today. It's not a surprise either, by the way. The game rigged itself. They just didn't announce it to any of us, but slowly they've been working under the cover to make this happen. And what happened was that essentially institutions discovered that they could neuter men without any consequences, right? They could demand compliance without building any strength. They could break the male spirit, then they expect you to keep grinding, and nothing happens for them. Nothing collapses. Society is still working. Have you noticed that? Yeah? Your school wants boys sitting still like girls, but medicates the hell out of them when they fidget just a little bit. Your media portrays dads as bubbling idiots, while strong women save the fucking day. How many more movies do we need of a special forces woman soldier that's 5'2" beating up a group of 6 men in a hallway? How many more do we need? Right? The dating apps, it's endless hypergamy, where you're just a wallet until she upgrades. Every system wants passive betas while punishing alphas. Okay, this isn't how it was. Men used to lead families. We used to build empires, protect tribes. Governments used to honor warriors. Jobs rewarded grit and muscle, right? Universities forged thinkers, not victims. The shift hit fast, dude. Maybe in just 40 years this happened. But the last 2 decades went fucking nuclear with Me Too. You remember that? Porn floods on every man's brain and offshored every fucking factory so there's no more jobs. You probably know a guy, everybody here does, that got divorced, raped after 15 years. He lost his kids, and he's a cash cow to a system that favors her empowerment. You probably swipe through apps where 80% of the women chase the top 20% of men. We know this. It's factual. Leaving the rest as emotionless tampons. Yeah? You probably have a buddy whose T levels tanked from stress and screens, turning him into a depressed fucking couch potato. It's not bad luck. This is deliberate disarmament. This is how you have to see this. And that's the part that should piss you off the most. They're not even hiding this shit anymore. Feminists openly brag about smashing the patriarchy while ignoring male self-delete rates that have quadrupled women's. Corporations ship your fucking job to China and then lecture you on diversity. And then the hub pumps free dopamine hits to fry your brain and kill your drive. They know you see this happening. They just bet that you'll stay passive. That's the problem, right? The younger generations get called incels or losers for opting out of this. But they're the only ones who get the new rules. They watch their dads get gutted for being providers. They saw alpha traits criminalized in one viral tweet. Their weakness, it's not a flaw. It's just surviving in the gynocentric shit show we're in. Most men are trapped in denial. Knowing the war is one thing, but they're too emasculated to fight it in the first place. They see the traps, but they think sucking it up is manly. They're like cucks who know they're being used, but they can't walk away. And the only way to flip this script is when you understand that your masculinity is the firepower, and you've been handing it over for scraps. Right? These systems, they need your compliance more than you need their validation. They built the matrix where you never realize that you're that fucking battery and they're sucking the juice out of you. Think about what happens when men stop swallowing this blue pill. When guys quit simping for likes from companies that fucking hate them. When fathers demand fair courts instead of alimony slavery. When brothers ditch porn for real conquest in the real world. Touching grass, right? The facade starts to crumble. We're not talking theory. This is happening now, by the way. The whole manosphere and its boom, it's not misogyny. It's just men rejecting the bullshit. This whole political backlash, it's not right-wing rage, some red pill awakening. It's just seeing the truth. The system is broken. Same with the fertility crash. It's not coincidence. A lot of men are saying no to rigged families and that women aren't good enough to marry anyways and have kids with. Every institution is panicking because the men are starting to unplug, right? You see all the reports about massive amounts of men that will not step into the worker pool. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not some tinfoil hat shit. It's just men are just saying something simple like, fuck this, I'm building my own empire in my own little life. The male code, they didn't update this shit for the 21st century of what they wanted us to be. They fucking tried to erase it completely. And we're going to lay it out scam by scam from every sector. showing you exactly how they did this top down and maybe how to deal with what's coming down the pipeline because it's not looking good. You know, the old masculinity is under the whole toxic umbrella today because it's all control. Basically tuned every part of the system to drain men dry. And they've succeeded for the most part. Right? They depend on you to be passive. They depend on your porn habits, your child support payments. Without that shit, they'd be exposed as empty shells. All their code would be broken. Instagram, OnlyFans, all this shit lives off of men's backs. It does not survive without men. What do you think? YouTube is like 80% male or more, something like that. The internet is overwhelmingly male. Masculinity will come back one way or another, but the question will be, are you going to sit out or try to get ahead of what they're doing? And that's what we're trying to break down here. And that's the saddest part of all, man. This West, it's like in lockstep falling apart. I mean, you see it here. I'll buy a robot. There you go. That's like the bug sandwich right there. I'll just get a robot and die out. Why does society want men weak and passive and buying sex bots? It's very simple. They don't just tolerate weak men. They're engineering them. They want compliant betas to fuel the consumer machine. You vote predictably and you get discarded without a fuss. The war isn't woke nonsense. It's a calculated takedown to neuter the threats to the status quo. It's backed by your crashing T levels, the rigged courts, and a dating meat grinder that turns you into the disposable ATM, the walking fucking wallet, right? That's what it is. The evidence for 2025, we already have it. We have plummeting labor participation, divorce rape is rampant, porn-fried brains are fucking everywhere, the mass gooning. You saw it in the last few streams. The moment a chick passes by on the stream with her tits halfway out, the chat quadruples in activity. Gooning themselves out. They can't even finish the stream. They gooned early, right? The system wants you weak. It's very easy. You all got the hypergamous dating that priced average Joes out is now society pricing average Joes out because you don't fight back. You're too busy gooning it up. You're too busy playing the next whatever just came out, watching the next season of whatever. You're distracted. And even when you try, you're too gooned out of your fucking mind to do anything about it. You've given up. So we've established now that it's open male or it's open season on male strength. It's blatant in your fucking face. And it's not going to stop anytime soon. Why? Well, think about it. Traits that make you assertive are threats to them. They reward soy boy compliance. That's why you saw videos of like, every man should be weak. It's not weak to cry. Because why? Empowered men topple fucking elites. All the corruption goes away. Docile ones line their fucking pockets, right? So where was this historical shift? How did this fucking start? It started before 1980. Masculinity used to mean provisioning, protection, right? Dominant societal backbone. That's what it was. And you were rewarded for having these traits with respect and family. Now, it got labeled as patriarchal oppression by feminists. It got swapped for being emotionally fragile and crying like a bitch and being a victim, wholesale. Everyone's a fucking victim today. My life is so hard. Even the new Superman, someone just wrote, the new Superman is weak. Exactly. There's a massive cultural pivot. We had rugged individualism, right, to collective conformity. Or standing out gets you canceled. You must go with the message, what the groupthink is. You cannot stand out. You know, the nail that sticks out gets hammered. Individuality is done. We used to reward, like, do you remember the 80s, the 70s, and even early 90s movies? They were all buff, jacked, roided out fucking super soldier movies, military shit, fighting fucking aliens. Hell, we even had aliens, literally, where they made a strong woman character. You remember that? You guys remember that? They even wrote strong women. And then today, you got the woke version of that where, what was it? She-Hulk was twerking in the fucking office being a lawyer. It's insane. It's insane. So you look at some of the key indicators of decline, for example. Since 1980, appreciate you, Joshua, testosterone has been plunging 1% a year. We've been getting poisoned since 1980. Young men today have half of their grandparents' levels in testosterone. You can blame things like plastics, the soy diets, and the sedentary lifestyle. So that's where we tried to make America healthy again. And then it seems to not be working quickly enough. Something as simple as a food dye is a problem. We need to give companies years to institute it, right? When you adjust for BMI, low T, because we've had levels dropping from 1999 to 2016 in T levels, right? Low T gives you a low drive. You're highly compliant. You like to probably fuck dudes in dresses. You let the government screw you in the ass. You don't have the balls to stand up and potentially get hammered or go against the message. That's why they want soy boys. That's why they want low T levels. That is why your food is poisoned. Is it a conspiracy theory to say this, or is it what's actually happening in society? Strong men create good times. You've heard it, right? Weak men create hard times. We're in the harvest phase. It's elites that are reaping all our masculinity, sucking it up. Where's the ground zero? Think about it. Where does this happen? Schools, where boys get drugged, right? Dumbed down like they're faulty girls. They say that all the time, right? They're basically like, it's a feminized kill zone. Zero tolerance for boy energy. Curricula is built for verbal sit-still compliance type learning. Boys are lagging half a grade by 8th grade behind girls. Then they get suspended 2.5 times more. That preps them for failure, not leadership. Think about what kind of school system we've built for our young men. And then the education system itself in general. Boys get left behind. Remember, No Child Left Behind? I love how that was a thing. It gets rigged against you as a boy from kindergarten. How? Think of this, guys. 77% are female teachers with bias against, what do you think? Rough play is bad, and they'll label it ADHD and get you medicated, yeah? So boys start to disengage, they'll drop out, they'll enter adulthood handicapped. That's perfect for a system that wants drones, not men that think for themselves, traditionally masculine men, right? We have now a gender gap in achievement in schooling. Girls crush reading and writing by full grades, and boys edge math, but it's irrelevant. In the verbal heavy world, we don't give a fuck about STEM, right? Global boys out of school edge girls from 129 million versus 122 million, right? And UK boys, for example, in the UK, this is how bad it is. They're failing every metric. Every early metric, a boy is behind a girl, but somehow all funding goes to young girls. Imagine that. Imagine that. How many boys do you think get expelled from like preschool and up? And then that right there funnels them to juvie or welfare. Think about that. Why? He was too excited. Why? Because we're doing boring presentations. Why? Because they learn with their hands. They're energetic. They want to be moving, doing things. Okay. So that's what you call systemic bias, right? We've ditched competition because that's mean for collaboration. That ignores the way boys are wired completely, right? And our outcome is what? We get higher male unemployment, a ton of crime, right? And this is like cannon fodder for the prison industrial complex. We want the system to break like this and have people fall through the cracks, young boys, because that feeds the prisons, private prisons that profit off of prisoners. How fucked is that? That's our system. That's real. Isn't that insane? Schools don't educate boys. They fucking castrate them. They turn them into sheep for the slaughter. That's what's crazy. All right? Did school crush your spirit as a boy? Do you have I'm curious for the chat. Do you have a core memory of schools crushing what it means to be a young boy? How many of you were probably medicated in some way or another? It's shocking how common boy energy, whatever they want to call it, is beaten out of us. At an early age, you were told to stop. You're being bad. Look at that. That's crazy. And one person said, I was lucky I had good male teachers. That's so rare. Yeah. So that leads into the next part. Think about it. The media assault. Why are we always portrayed as bumbling buffoons and idiots or villains now, right? We're all portrayed on TV or movies as clowns or creeps, and they normalize that all men are clowns or creeps, right? The dumb husband, the predatory villain, the, emasculated hero. Even if a man somehow is a hero, he's sort of a bitch in entertainment today, right? It's just brainwashing, guys, to make strength suspect. Weakness is aspirational in our society. We live in an inverse world. Strength is really weakness, and weakness is really strength, right? This is Hollywood's agenda. Strong women rise on the backs of weak men. Ads will depict dads as idiots, reinforcing that real masculinity is something sort of outdated, right? And dangerous, right? Conditioning all the betas to stay in line and be good little boys.
Cheers to Thefom sent $5. God bless my mom. She had me run around block after every line of multiplication tables as kid. Integrating physical activity with boring school work.
Good mom, definitely.
Walton sent $5. I was medicated and was told by my teacher in middle school not to talk because she didn't like my deep voice.
Jeez. Isn't that insane? Listen to that. You got medicated in middle school? Man, some of these don't even seem believable, but it happens to so many. That's what's crazy. Unreal. Can you imagine medicating a young child just because he sounded too much like a man? Look, another one said they try to put me on ADHD meds. Jesus. Yeah, unreal. Stereotypes, appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Nice shirt. I'll open up the store again, guys. I just have to do a whole new shop. Shirts will be available. But going back to the stereotypical depictions in the media, by the way, the new male that they have, right? The soft-spoken, can't look you in the eyes, right? Women are now dominant. Music videos that glorify violent males, but they'll vilify them. Yeah. So there is no good man anymore. It's just a soft bitch or a violent man. That's it. There's no in between. There's nobody with any character or values that you would like to replicate. That's it. And weak men are always propping up some sort of strong woman. She's the heroine of the story that saves the world, right? The power imbalances are essentially twisted to demonize you as a man. And it's cultural reinforcement because it's a self-perception thing. You start to internalize that boys are just incompetent, that girls are somehow better, right? This seeds the hypergamous hell that you're living in. You know, the media isn't mirroring society. It's molding it, guys. It forges men to see themselves as like one trope at a time. That's what it's like. And then you have, you know, the waves of feminism that dismantled patriarchy, as they say, but like overshot dramatically. It wasn't even about equality. It was like superiority is what they want, supremacy, right? They vilified masculinity and they ignored the disposability of males completely, wholesale, right? Men pay the price in courts, in job, in culture, but the real equity, the real equality that they asked for, never talked about it, never at all. The feminist double-edged sword, right? Was it actually empowerment or just emasculating men? What was it? Because it liberated women, but at what cost to our boys, right? The toxic label suppresses our natural drives in society, but female privileges keep stacking up. Isn't that weird? Divorce courts, they get so much. Custody biases prove that this shit's not equal. It's a rigged game. Think about it. Makes no sense for
Scotsman
equality.
in Spain sent €5. Whenever I got bullied at school, I would always be reprimanded for defending myself.
Of course you are. You're supposed to get picked on. You're supposed to be bullied. You're supposed to be defenseless. You're not supposed to stick out. That's what they want you to do. They're like training you that when somebody steps on you, that what you should be doing is nothing. That's social engineering, right? Zero tolerance. Because you fought back, you're now kicked out of school. You're expelled. What do you think that does to you? It's all by design. Because who never gets in fights? Girls. Hardly ever, right? So when you look at this double-edged sword and the positive and negative impacts, the upside is that, if you could even call this an upside, that it does encourage males to be, what would you say, emotionally more open and not be so rigid with themselves. Fine, right? But it does amplify the masculinity crisis in every other fucking metric imaginable. They overlook male burdens, right? Everything is anti-male. They never say that it's for real equality. I mean, what's a man good for? They constantly say that. Men aren't shit. What does it say? That men don't matter, that they're not important in society. How does that make any sense? And that's what caused the gender divide. Our men don't get supported in these equality pushes. We're always the ones perpetrating all the issues, aren't we? What equality for men? We're in the superior position. If anything, we should keep losing more and more. Right? There's no empathy for you, but there's empathy for everybody else. When's the last time you got any empathy? Please. When do they see the struggles of young men? Even when they talk about like mass unemployment, they never really bring a young man on there to talk about what it's like being unemployed with no future and the ladder got pulled up from under your feet before you could even reach for the next step. They never talk to young men. It's always women talking about what's happening. Yeah? So that's causing a cultural fallout. Men are the perpetual oppressors. Women are always victims, and it ignores data like the self-delete rates, right? Feminism didn't level the playing field at all. They just tilted that shit in their favor. And we as men as a whole got made into villains into their story. We're always oppressing them. We're holding them back somehow, some way, right? If you asked men in chat, was feminism good for society? I mean, it might be a biased chat to ask, but what benefits did we get? It was there equality or female supremacy. I think most people say it went too far and we got female supremacy of some sort. It's not helping anybody, all right? And then you have to get into the whole economics of the deal. None. What benefits have you gotten from the equality of feminism? That's the point. It was never equal from the first place. That's the point, right? So they shipped our jobs overseas. This is the economic factor that we're talking about. Bankrupted a bunch of families. They rigged dating and divorce. So dating and divorce, right? And child support. And men are getting fucked from every single side. That's the truth. Globalization, the globalist, whatever fucking name you want to give them, blue collar jobs, they gutted all of them. They offshored all our manufacturing for cheap labor hellholes. Now we have sky high family costs. Hypergamous dating is everywhere, and divorce rate or rape, makes starting a legacy almost suicidal for the average Joe. Not that men are lazy. This whole notion that men are lazy, you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you fucking bum, when you're priced out and penalized by trying anyway. That's the issue. I'd love to pull myself up, old timer, but you fucking took all the stairs from the ladder as you climbed your way up. You know the average house is $120,000 today. I mean, pull myself up from what? My own asshole? Thanks, bro.
Isaac sent $5. In order for them to bring an average man on the show, they would first need to find an average man.
Yeah, there's plenty of, yeah. Nobody wants to hear from an average man, though. That's the point. They don't care. That's why it's not balanced. It's never, yeah. They'll bring some uber rich guy or a bunch of, like a boomer will speak on behalf of all men today, or a bunch of fucking harpies. But they never ask a normal guy. Pull yourself up by your own asshole, bro. Please. So, what is this economic shit show and the family implosion, right? We went from breadwinners as men to broke fucking doormats in literally a few generations. Someone said, boomer stole your boots and gave them to an illegal alien. Holy shit. Wow. So offshoring, right, that decimated male sectors, especially white men, when you add in DEI. You can't afford kids? Well, tough shit, bro. Die alone, right? The cost is in total around $300,000. Wage has stagnated. Costs have exploded everywhere. The job market is in a full fucking blown panic. It's absolute carnage. Offshoring hit us first, then automation, and now you factor in AI replacing even whatever jobs are left here. So, you know, they shipped all our shit overseas, things like NAFTA, everything. We have a service economy, and then a service sector economy favors who? Women. Women do a bunch of the service jobs, probably glucking their way up the ladder. Duh. How many more babysitting jobs out there where they're just eating lattes, dicking around at work, having one or two Zoom calls, and they call that a job? It's a complete clown show, right? Do you know that 7.2 million men have dropped out of the workforce? And of those 7.2 million are the young men that are hit the hardest in that statistic. Those numbers are fucking insane, right? So when you have an earnings crash, what do you think happens to marriage viability? No provider role, no family, no woman. No woman wants you. They literally call you, I'm not joking, economically unviable men. You hear that? You're not a human being. You're just economically unviable. Wow. Boy, does that get you hard for marriage and kids, yeah? So that's also, apart from, because we've covered the toxic dating and the family traps, yeah? We know hypergamy. We know how many times women swipe right. It's only on the top 5% of men. We know that they all filter if they could, especially by income and height. You're a wallet. You're a fucking doormat for validation, then you get discarded. Did you know that they polled men? I think it was somewhere on Reddit where I was reading this. I don't know how. The statistics were over half of them were opting out. The risk, they said, was too high in a provider or bust culture. And the divorce rates are fucking insane. Women are initiating 80% of the divorces. And the custody to moms historically is given how much? 80 to 90%. The child support bias crushes the dad. Yeah, in 2025, men are sperm donors at best. The economics didn't evolve. It fucking eviscerated men. Jobs are gone. Families are unaffordable. Dating's a fucking scam. Divorce is essentially a wealth transfer. No wonder the betas are multiplying. Who do you think anything other than a beta would accept this kind of life? How many people here in the chat have like a hypergamy horror story where you just walked in on your girl just getting bagged by two dudes or some crazy shit, or some guy in here that used to be married and now he's got a divorce rape story? How many? If you have one of those two stories, and two, if no, everything went well for you and like you got a great life, found your one, and you're good to go, right? One, if you've had a fucking nightmare dealing with women. There you go. We have occasional twos. I got lucky. We have three. Three said I never touched a bitch ever in my life. Okay. I haven't found anyone. So the threes are out the game complete. Gotcha.
Isaac sent $5. When I was in MCT, we were trained on to dehumanize the enemy in order to do certain actions. What's going on now feels familiar.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, I guess you could call it social engineering, no? That's really what it is. So, okay. I guess we could get into what's happening next. What? Biological. The biological kill shot. How many people goon? How many of you, not only do you goon, but do it multiple times, just gooning nonstop? How porn fried is your brain? Do you understand, right? Porn addiction essentially inhibits brain areas. Your brain breaks when you're gooning, right? Then you have an issue viewing women as an object and you're a goon spree. You're a mega gooner, right? That causes ED. There are guys that goon so hard, they even have women. There's guys that have girlfriends or wives and they're goon machines, goon wizards of the highest degree, and their dick doesn't work with their woman. Can you imagine that? You literally have a piece of puss in front of you and you're so gooned out of your mind that she could be in front of you naked and it does nothing. Because if there's not 6 midgets, a horse, and some other shit in the scene, it does nothing for you. You're a supreme goon wizard. What the fuck? So that shit fries your fucking motivation. It breeds betas. It's insane, bro. And think about that shit. Why do you think testosterone is down by 50% or more? Even in non-obese people. Think about that. So what do we have for evidence of the decline? What could the goon wizards? Oh my God. Dude, we're in trouble. How many people, I just want to know before we continue on, how many people here have had an issue? This was one of the most, I want to say, this was probably one of the most incredible things for me to find out when we did the Spartan Challenge is that men struggle with adult entertainment more than anything else. They could get on a diet. They could quit eating shitty food. They could give up video games. They could start reading books. They could meditate. They could do a lot of things. But when it came to Goon Town, they couldn't leave it. They were stuck in there. Who else is dealing with that kind of shit? Yeah. I've seen horror stories of the massive gooning that has taken place in male minds, like stupendous levels. Rip masculinity to Europeans. I mean, I get what you're saying, but gooning affects every man in the world today, no matter your skin color. We have a interesting relationship with adult entertainment, the same way women have an interesting relationship with social media. And the way it fries our brains is the way social media does women. That's why when I always tell you guys, like, social media is the biggest predictor of your relationship succeeding or failing, and her relationship with it. It really is. If you have a decent woman, she's not going to be, that's their version of goon. So if a chick is on there nonstop, she's a mega goon for that stuff, right? It fries the same dopamine receptors, both in them and us. It's crazy the effects it has. Let me check something. It says the problem is gooners can now directly pay the host. Okay. So, I mean, men actually funding all the degeneracy. It goes back to what we said earlier, why they want weak soy boys. You're funding fake relationships. You're funding OFANs. You're funding women bad behavior by DMing them. Men are funding literally all the degeneracy in society. When we said like that men are the pillar that keeps up this degenerate behavior happening. It's men. That's why I blame this stuff on us, right? So porn not only fries your brain, but it fucks you up with like addiction, dude. It makes you hyperactive to cues, right? And it isolates you. You will start to objectify your woman. You lose intimacy drive. Your dopamine has hijacked you for being a passive beta. You goon it out. Yeah, it rewires synapses. You goon it out. And then you don't want to do anything anymore. Porn is not harmless. No, it isn't. No, it is not. It's chemical warfare on your balls and your brain, boys. Stop it. Try to stop it. Turns you to a fucking herbivore, pretty much. Soy supreme. Okay, let's get into... Someone says we're discussing whether goth girls are better than cat girls. Jeez. So we'll talk about the psychological toll, right, of this insane society that we've built. So since the 1950s, yeah, like the stream, by the way, so we can get everybody back. Since the 1950s, guys, men have been offing themselves.
Ivy Intia sent $4.99.
Oh, thank you.
I'm 21 as of yesterday, and I think the only reason I'm not a 5-star Black Mage level 99 Gooner is because I turned to the gym after my key breakup.
Nice. He's on his redemption arc. He's rebuilding himself. Don't go down the level 99 Goon Wizard lifestyle. It leads to despair, depression, and worse, potentially. Yeah. So since 1950, excuse me, thanks, by the way, for the 5, men have been offing themselves at a 3.5 times rate women are. Yeah. And we get told that it's a failure to man up, which is what breeds this anxiety and depression. And you get it, the mental health crisis that men have because you're inadequate. Your life starts to spiral out of control, right? The isolation you put yourself under, the ED shame from all the gooning, all the dating fails, if any, all the horrible messages you get from dating apps or no messages at all, even if you do happen to match somebody. Right? And then if you do have a woman, the divorce thing amplifies all of this too, the mental health crisis. Thanks, Harlington. You get financial ruin, you'll get custody loss, and that's straight despair. I mean, that puts you in a horrendous spot mentally as a man. You know, everything you've ever worked for gets basically state and force ripped out of your life. And that has a broader effect on men too, because I think you could call stoicism a form of a trap.
Isaac sent $5. Women attempt it more often, men perform more to completion.
Yeah, I think, it's just gooning doesn't affect them the same. You lose essence as a man. You lose like energy. It's called sexual transmutation. So like a woman can goon 50 times and feel fine. But you try to goon it 50 times, bro, you've lost way too much. You're done. Your drive is cooked. You're sitting on the couch not doing shit. It just doesn't affect us the same. That's why when we get on social media, we're not affected the same as they are. Like somebody talking shit on your profile or things that you see, anything in general, it doesn't affect you emotionally like it does them. For them, it's like the world is fucking over. If somebody didn't like your profile picture enough or your story, or that like their life's over, they have to retake the photo 10 more times, repost it. Like a guy doesn't give a fuck. Guys will take the worst looking pictures ever and be like, cool, if they don't like it, they don't like it. Anyways, next. And then so I'll just take a picture of what I did or what I'm going to do next time. Thanks, Harleyton. Someone said, are you still on the DHS government watch list? Not sure, actually. Probably. I don't know. U.S. aid got dismantled in its previous form, so we don't know technically what kind of lists are still being made or if they're funding any more of that woke shit. I don't think they are. But you never know with this government, do you? It's a bit of a strange place in America today. So, but I was talking about stoicism, or at least getting into it. So, I don't know. I want to ask, how many of you guys think stoicism is like a trap today? Do you feel like stoicism is a way out for you? Or do you feel like it's a cope for men to suffer in silence today? What do you think? I think a lot of men think it's like suffering in silence. Yeah. So, it's strange how society will glorify strong men, right, until they need help. It's like you're good to go as long as you're providing for society, as long as you're useful in some way. But the moment you stick your hand out like you might need a little bit of help, you're a fucking piece of shit. You're a loser, and you get discarded. You're a burden. Go away. That's what I find crazy. When I started talking to men and having, those chats on the private community, I couldn't believe the amount of DMs, the amount of messages of guys that were talking about, hitting endgame or have had experienced that multiple times already. And for whatever reason, whether through failure or anything else, they're still here, and then they turn their lives around. Sometimes they'll say like your channel helped, or, and I changed this, I started doing this, and I found a couple other people and their life changed for the better. But it's shocking that so many men have been there at one point or thought about it. All right. What helps a lot of men is like ditching porn, lift some heavy fucking weights, learn some skills, stack some money, right? Either date strategically if possible. Maybe you have to do the overseas thing, or maybe you just have to pump and dump and not want anything serious, or maybe you just do the MGTOW thing. You just go your own way completely. Maybe one of those. But it seems like that's the only way. So, what other way to better yourself? Because think about it like this. So the only way to boost your testosterone, unless you're taking some sauce, is literally lifting weights and eating clean, right? Don't fap. Unfry your fucking brain. Enough with the gooning. You have to figure out a way to make the economy of the situation work. So, for example, you need multiple income streams. That's why so many people are doing the, gig economy thing. They're making money from their jobs that are shitty, but then they're also doing something else on the side, like Uber Eats or Uber in general, or something. Somebody's always doing something extra, because multiple income streams are like the only way to survive today. Side hustle. It really is a thing. Like, if you don't have side hustles, you're fucked. Unless you got a great job, which is becoming increasingly rare. It seems like side hustle is the only way you can make it. Just so that's what's completely fucked, right? And then avoiding the marriage trap altogether, right? And on the collective front, maybe it's doing things like private communities that eventually have meetups, which is something that I've been wanting to do and hopefully do sometime soon, is being physically present with people and doing things like things in nature. Getaways for the weekend. So I think that's the only way. From what I've noticed, guys that find a tribe, guys that will do retreats, stuff like that, tend to be mentally in a much better place because of the emotional support net that you build that is lacking in a lot of men's lives. Like, I guarantee you, okay, how many guys in here, just say one, if your emotional support or your social safety net is like guys you game with, mostly, or at least it was at some point. Like, how many guys here really just have basically gamer friends? One's if you have mostly gamer friends. I feel like that's becoming the norm. Like, it's extremely dangerous, but it seems like a lot of guys were becoming so disconnected that most gamer bros, or your like closest guy friends that you talk to, share shit with, like a lot of times they don't even live in the same state. They're not bros you actually grew up with. They're just bros you game with. And some guys are saying don't game anymore, but IRL friends are becoming increasingly rare. Yeah, you see? A lot of ones, dude. That's not normal, guys. That's actually fucking insane. Yeah, that's it's not healthy, but what can you do about it when society is wired this way? All male spaces started disappearing. What do you do? How do you form a tribe of men, right? That was the point of the name. How do you do that in a world that does not have places for you to be surrounded by men only? Yeah. So, you could biohack yourself by, optimizing your tea with like sleep, getting time out in the sun, eating red meat, things like that, right? Get your, what is it that you get a lot of it from eggs? They used to say it was bad. Not saturated fats. Cholesterol, guys. Cholesterol is like an absolute core part of your diet to have healthy testosterone levels. Choline is also a big one, or choline. So you could get that from like eggs too. But they demonized cholesterol, and then they wonder why men's hormones are so shit. Like, that's a primary building block of testosterone. Yeah, it's crazy what they've managed to do to us. But this is essentially from top down the masculinity massacre that we've experienced. This is what it is. This is what they've done from top down. Yeah. So I'm curious, what is the biggest red pill you've swallowed in your life so far? Where did it come from? Was it physical? You see how screwed up the world was that they're feeding us poison?
Isaac sent $5. Personally hard for me to make new friends, mostly due to how introverted I am. Part of it is because I come off as creepy to others.
Well, making friends is hard in the world today. The only way you can make friends is to find a hobby that you like to do. I think for men, the easiest way to make friends and loosen up that sort of creepy aura is MMA gym. I think if you go to a combat gym, you're going to hate it in the beginning. You're going to feel so nervous. You're going to feel like you don't belong. But the people there in combat gyms are some of the coolest dudes you'll ever meet. I think that's one of the last bastions for masculinity is combat gyms. Seriously.